Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training. We're here in Chicago, next to the Travel Lodge. This is Columbia University, one of their buildings. And we're looking over here to see if they've satisfied the requirement. Must be painted every 3 years, must be structurally sound. We're looking at a fire escape here that hasn't seen paint in probably 3 years, so it does definitely need a paint job. Not fully rusted, but does need a paint job. Number two, we're looking for structural repairs. We're looking to see if there's any bolting. The first thing we always look for when we're trying to see if there's been any repairs done to this fire escape in its 50 to 75 year life is always the treads. Start there. When you're looking at the treads, you're looking for hex head bolts, and I see nothing but square head bolts all the way up. The second thing you look for is on supports, on the rail supports and on the tie backs, whether any of those supports look like they've been reinforced or changed out from square heads into hex heads. And looking at the supports and looking at the rail posts, none of them have been switched out. They're all still original hardware. So that's the main issue when you're dealing with these fire escapes, as to whether or not the engineer or the architect is satisfied with the existing condition fire escape bolts that are 50 to 75 years old. A lot of times the practice nationwide is that you minimally reinforce all the treads, all the supports, and all the rails posts with, even if they have square head bolts that are in good to excellent condition, you minimally reinforce them or replace them whatever's faster and easier, because they are 50 to 75 years old. So on this particular fire escape, looking up, we're also looking for cement, but we can't see any cement issues, so original hardware is the issue, and it looks like it hasn't been painted. But let's look at this other fire escape right next to it, here, right next to the Travel Lodge. See what issues we can find here. Now, the same way, actually, let's go back to this one. See that chain? The weight box is never supposed to have a chain back to a staircase. Too much force on that, so that's illegal to have a chain going back to a staircase. It has to have its own independent support and a spring on the support, so that there's a little bit of give when this thing goes back up, because it's a lot of violent force and it can actually yank that staircase down. So it's out of balance. It doesn't even have a release arm. These things are supposed to be 2 to 3 feet per second. One release, they drop 2 to 3 feet per second onto the ground. Right now it's balanced backwards. You have to go 5 or 8 steps out, counteract the weight, come down. Once you get off, it goes right back up. So the repeated banging is going to knock that staircase down. Let's take a look over here on this fire escape right here on this building, the public parking. Let's take a look at some of the issues. This one, again, it's balanced backwards. It's got the chain on the wrong, it's just wrapping. This is an add-on. And a lot of times, because these things are out of balance, there's no release arm on them. Otherwise, the way that they're supposed to work is you're supposed to step on the first or second tread. That activates it. If it's perfectly balanced, it'll drop 2 to 3 feet per second, hit the ground, stay down. People can self-evacuate, and it'll be here when the the fire station fire trucks arrive. But this one is balanced backwards. It being balanced backwards means people now have to step out 5 to 8 treads, counteract the balance, drop. Once it hits the ground, it's going to come back up by itself, and makes it impossible for the fireman to basically get it without pulling it down and having a fireman hold it down during an emergency situation. And whenever this thing comes back up, this amount of weight yanking on that corner is going to rip that corner down with repeated usage. Now, let's look at the other things. Must be painted every 3 years. This one has not been painted in 3 years. Let's look at other structural issues. I got angles. I got original hardware. I got rust growth in the connections. I've got square head bolts everywhere. I'm looking for evidence, even on the staircase, that they've been flipped out to new bolts. I got rust in the connection of the treads. I've got rivets at all the joints. I'm looking for some cement repair evidence. Nothing, but just all original hardware on this 50 to 75 year old fire escape. I've got nothing but original hardware. I've got rusty tears on the wall indicating that water's getting into the connections. I'm trying to see going up. Looks like into the walls have got spalling at the cement level. I've got bulging that's happening here. I've got rust growth here in this connection that's pulling it away from the wall, with all the rusty tears right there. The pivot arm looks like it's still in good condition. And let's look at it from this side to see. We got rust in the connections of the treads. Yep. So again, in the evidence of looking for maintenance on this fire escape, all original hardware all the way up as far as the eye can see. No evidence of maintenance. No evidence of painting in the past 3 years. And this fire escape does need some structural. If you look up, you can already see that this stiffener angle is full of rust on the inside. Should that angle give way for any reason while it comes down and hits the ground and torques, that angle will come down and hit somebody in the head. It's a very, very busy street. Lots of people walking down here all the time. Any questions? Give us a call here at Farscape Academy, 800-649-3333. Inspector Meneses looking at this fire escape. We're here in Chicago.